So we've talked a lot on these channels about AC Shadows, because there's been a lot to talk about, frankly. There's a never-ending supply of topics, no doubt, scandals and the like, but rarely, it seems, do we get the chance to actually just talk about the game based on developer interviews or whatever else. There's always something else that's informing the conversation. But just yesterday, at IGN FanFest, which I didn't realize was a thing, but apparently IGN FanFest is like an event that they do. They had the game director speaking about combat in AC Shadows and progression and things like that. And this is crucial because, like, I think at the end of the day, AC Shadows, I think it's very, very unlikely based on what I've seen. I think it's unlikely that it's like a total disaster type of game. I think that there is a decent enough, solid enough game. My primary concern is whether they lean into AC Odyssey design philosophies or if they lean into Assassin's Creed Valhalla design philosophies. Because I really passionately dislike Valhalla. I think it makes so many choices for an open world game that are just nonsensical. Like, and they don't work. And they tried to respond to some fan feedback, but in really like not effective ways. For example, people were constantly complaining that all over the map, there were question marks and objective markers, right? Because it's the old Ubisoft thing where there's always different things to find, but they tell you where they are. And it's like the collectathon thing, right? So what does Ubisoft do? Ubisoft instead for AC Valhalla replaced it. So they got rid of this and instead would put color-coded dots on the map. And those dots pointed out treasure, pointed out secrets or little side activities. And they basically stripped out side quests as they were traditionally seen in like AC Odyssey and replaced them with this stuff. And I hate it. Like, I really hate it. It's so not, it doesn't work with my brain. Like, for some people, obviously it works. Valhalla made them $1 billion. It's a massive success financially for them. There's a lot of people out there that really like Valhalla and have put a lot of time into it. But for my brain, it just does not compute. It just does not compute, unfortunately. And I wish it did, and I wish I could enjoy the game more, but it's just a ton of scattered tidbits, and then each one of these little areas has their own completion meter, and you have to go and collect all of those things. It doubles down on the collectathon stuff that I can't stand way more than any game they've ever made, which is frustrating because I thought Odyssey was going in a really, really good direction. And my hope with Shadows for a long time has been that they start to lean into the Odyssey stuff, because this is the team that made Odyssey. This is not the team that made Valhalla. That was Montreal. This is Quebec. So fingers crossed, right? Well, we just don't know.
Mihai Varzandin donated £10 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
I really hope AC Shadows is at least playable. Civ 7 was an unfinished disaster, and MH Wilds looks like PS3 game that can barely run on a PC.
Yes. What I will say, as of this moment, because I've seen people come into chat, it sounds like some people have review codes already and stuff. As of right now, like I don't have a review code. As of this moment, I have not touched the game since the preview event. That's it. But I do hope that they've delayed it enough that they can really polish it up. And it does seem like it's made significant progress. When we played it at the preview event, we were playing a build from November is what they told us. And already that build ran very, very well. There was only like one, I think, pop-in issue I ran into, and that was it. So it seemed to be significantly polished, and they already were saying that the new builds that we were playing, when we were playing in January, they were like, oh, the current build is way better. And they have another like 2 months on top of that with like 3,000, 4,000 people working on polishing the game. So I expect AC Shadows will run pretty well. That's my expectation, but you know, time will tell. That being said, I do think for AC Shadows, there's just more questions at this point than I expected there to be. A lot of games, you see the trailer, you see a preview, and you kind of know exactly what you're going to get, right? Like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I did that preview event in December, and after playing, they just gave us 7 hours of the game. They said, boot it up, hit play for 7 hours, and that's it. That's all you need. And I played it for 7 hours, and I understood what the game was, and I really liked it. With Shadows, I've done preview events. I've interviewed the creative director, the gameplay directors, the narrative director. I've interviewed these people, talked to them about it, And I still have massive questions around the game, which could just mean that they're being coy and secretive and there's tons of secrets and cool stuff to find, but it also like doesn't change the fact that I'm still wondering about a lot of this stuff. So this interview is going to be interesting because it's a chance for them to just talk about the combat systems, talk about progression, how this will change for different characters as the game goes on. Because the other big question mark for a lot of people is, why would I play as Yasuke if Nawe is capable of doing all this other stuff that he can't do? How does that scale long term? Because they've also said you can play through the vast majority of the game just with Nawe, and you don't need to stress about playing through as Yasuke if you don't really want to, except for like specific story beats, which is, you know, fine. I think that's fine. But I do think it's interesting that they have like, it's still just such a question mark. But this seems to answer the question, or at least try to talk about long-term progression with the playable characters in terms of combat, which is like a key pillar, of course. So let's see what they have to say about it.
Assassin's Creed Shadows finally brings the long-running series to the sought-after setting of feudal Japan and follows the intertwined lives of Naoya.
This also is our first look at winter gameplay, which has been the other thing I've been wondering about, because at the preview event, we didn't get to play with the winter season. We only got to look at devs playing in winter in like a specific area. And so we've not really seen a lot of interaction with like even snow deformation with footsteps. Like we haven't seen any of that stuff. And this, I believe, is the first time we're going to get that look.
Naoya, a shinobi assassin, and Yasuke, a powerful samurai. Together, the two will navigate the violent Sengoku period of Japan and usher in a new era. Joining me to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows is...
Okay, okay, now I have to explain that. I was going to pause, and he said
Japan and usher in a new era.
And I was going to make a joke, wow, Usher confirmed in the game. But then I thought to myself, as I paused the video, I was like, that's so stupid. And then there was a weird pause where I just kind of sat here, and that's where we are now. So sorry.
Joining me to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows is game director Charles Benoit. Charles, welcome.
Hi.
Dude was fighting for his life pronouncing that. That's funny.
Shadows is game director Charles Benoit.
Charles Benoit. Charles Benoit. Charles. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy.
Welcome.
Hi. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. So let's get right into it. I want to talk about progression today. Progression, gear, loot, all that fun stuff. So new to Shadows is the mastery and knowledge systems that you use to unlock new skills and abilities. How does that work?
Yeah, you can compare the mastery and the knowledge to a bit the philosophy of body and mind, if you know what I mean. So each time you accomplish something, leveling up, killing like high-level target and stuff like that, you will gain those mastery points. Those points can be spent in the mastery menu to acquire new skill and abilities that you can map. The knowledge, it's something a bit different. You need to do activities in the world, such as doing meditation or exploring temples to find lost page. And you will gain those knowledge points that will make you rank up and then unlock new things that you can purchase with your mastery point.
Very cool.
So mastery points tied to leveling up, and they're also tied to open world activities. Pretty standard. If you want players to explore your open world, you tie things that they want, like, of course, weapon abilities, combat improvements, mastery points. You tie all of that to those open world activities so that it's a loop, dare I say, a gameplay loop, where you get people to do things over here to get the thing you want over there. Very standard.
One thing I was a little bit struck by is the ability to respec at any point. So
I'm sorry, you... What the hell is that? Sonny, you said, I always thought Chris Benoit was named Crispin Wah. That's awesome. Wow. I'm sorry, I saw that message. I was like, what in the hell? That's... Okay, you got me to break focus. You got me.
Invest in all of your knowledge and mastery, and you build into a certain play style, but you have the ability to respec on the fly at no cost, is it? And if so, or if there isn't, is there any particular play style you're kind of fond of for each character?
Guys, IGN, what are we doing? What is this bitrate? Like, for the love of God, what are we doing? Who is hiring? Like, what are we doing? Look how over compressive. This is the thing though, is when, like, this has been a consistent problem for IGN videos. I've been complaining about it for like 2 years now, where they'll do these previews and they'll get native 4K footage from the source or from the outlet or the company publisher, whatever. And then they publish it and it looks like a Vine video from 2013. It looks horrible. Like, what is happening? It's unbelievable, man. They gotta figure this crap out.
Character yourself personally?
Yeah, we want to be more generous, and the fact that now we have the different trees split for different weapons, it's kind of cool to just try a weapon and how we can max up all the skills and abilities, and then how you get this new Kusarigama, for example, and then
It's like, Dad, boss, what's going on?
you want to try all the things the Kusarigama can do, so you can respect and try the other one. Personally, it depends on which character I'm playing, but with Naui, I'm the kind of guy that max out the assassin and the shinobi tree quite a lot.
Yeah, back is the new.
Sorry. Then the weapon. He speaks French, okay? English is not his primary language. He's doing his best.
Dual Assassination, which is very exciting.
Hey.
So, if a player has the ability to respec at any time, could a player then make a more like combat-centric Naue who would still enjoy the acrobatic gameplay features that make her unique? If so, how do you kind of balance incentivizing players to opt for a playstyle of their choice while still recognizing that there are two protagonists that kind of encourage two different play styles? Is there do you encourage people to swap over at any point to Yasuke or Naoe because only they can complete a mission?
That's a pretty good question, and that's the hard part with balancing this game, because we always want Naoe and Yasuke feel different from each other. You can see it if we put it on on a bar. The center would be a no-go for both. So yes, Naoe will be pretty strong in combat if you try to map all the best abilities and have the gear that boost the different type of stat that is useful for a fight. But she will never cross the point where she's better than Yasuke. Yasuke, as default, have more adrenaline bar, more health, more armor, so he will always feel a lot stronger in combat.
So simply getting enough points to unlock the final ability in every single mastery tree isn't as easy as it would be kind of building up to the mastery tree. They require some unique modifiers and unlocks in order to actually unlock those things. So, for example, what can you do? What do you need to do to get the final assassination upgrade?
So the tree, in the end, you need to have a lot of knowledge ranks. So you need to kind of explore the world and participate in some activities to obtain them. They also cost more in term of mastery points, so you need to kill multiple target, level up. So it can take quite a while, and we lock also some of the end game abilities under specific group of target to kill. So I can give you an example, but to assassinate with all the chunk, all the possibility, you need to kill all the God Eye Shinobi. It's a special group of Shinobi, and once you kill them, you acquire the knowledge necessary to obtain this kill.
Cap, this is an age-old Assassin's Creed Ubisoft concern. But my chief concern with a lot of this is that most of the fights we've seen are very like samey. You know, they're just fight another shinobi, fight another samurai. You know, it's very straightforward. And in Valhalla, there were like these legendary beasts. In Odyssey, there were like even mythical beasts, and the Minotaur and Medusa and stuff. And so far with this game, it seems like it really is just waves of samurai that have better and new and more skills. So I don't know. I'm really, my biggest concern with AC Shadows above and beyond anything and everything else is just that I have not seen a lot of variability except for like the weather and season stuff, which is cool, but I haven't seen like a lot of enemy variety. I haven't seen a lot of like questing variety. I haven't seen a lot of that type of thing that's going to keep it really engaging and interesting. And I'm hoping that there is some there, but when I hear that they've removed other things like an in-game game, there's no ore log or anything this time around, I start to wonder like, okay, well, either they have a lot of tricks up their sleeve, they have a lot of secrets and things they haven't revealed, or the game is just going to be really samey. I don't know. Jor confirmed there's 31 archetypes of enemies. Yeah, but my question is, are archetypes like, it's the devil's in the details, right? Like if it's 10 levels of grunts and each class of grunt is differentiated by maybe the weapon that they carry, by the armor that they have, each one of those is considered a different archetype? Or do they mean like, no, grunts, all of the grunts are one archetype, and then all of the samurai like mid-level guys are one archetype? In that case, I'm much more excited, but my fear is just from what I've seen in the game, from what we played in the game, it was much less than that. But again, we just don't know until we see the game, until we actually play the final version of it, because even at the preview we went to, we were very like limited, so we just don't really know until we play it, which is why I think there is a potential for this game to like really surprise people if they play it and they're like, actually this ended up being like way better than I was expecting. But there's also the potential that like the game ends up being exactly what you were worried it was going to be, and that's why it's just, the reviews are going to be fascinating. Like I cannot wait for the reviews and to see how this actually turned out, because I think it's going to be so freaking it's going to be a fascinating day. I can't wait.
Talk a little bit about the assassination portion. Are guaranteed assassinations back, or is it all locked to kind of power progression and scaling?
We offer the option, if you want to just just assassinate everyone, you can use the option, but it's not the way we intend you to play. We made a system that I feel it's quite fun, honestly, because you have perks that is linked to different type of gear piece or weapon that allow you to assassinate with more chunk, but also in more different like situation. For example,
so to be clear here, because I don't think the answer makes it super clear. In the settings, this is true for AC Valhalla, and I believe AC Odyssey as well, and Origins, I think, too. All of the modern AC games, you go into the settings and you can enable one-hit assassinations. The reason that they do not enable that by default is because when you're playing like a massive RPG and they intend for you to have a big boss fight against a high-level enemy, they feel like it's antithetical to the whole gameplay loop that they've built, to basically give you the option to just, climb up in the rafters and then one button press and it's over. So that's why they do it. They give you the option, if you want to enable one-hit assassinations, you can do that, but by default, it's turned off. They don't intend for you, as he said. That's not the way we intend for you to play. The game's been built kind of assuming that you can't go up to level 40 enemies as a level 1 and one-shot them, just like in many other RPGs and stuff. Thematically, I totally agree and totally get that it makes more sense to just one-shot because it's a hidden blade and you're literally assassinating someone. But I can also understand as a video game, maybe it might not be that practical to let you just one-shot anybody and everybody. So I can see both sides of the argument. When I review the game, I will be playing it based on the defaults, because I think it's only fair to review a game based on what they present to the normal player, the average player. So if I'm playing a game and I'm like, this is way too easy, I understand I can like crank the difficulty up, but I do want to be clear that like the game that they deliver to the average consumer, which very few people are going to go in and mess with difficulty settings, they just boot the game and start playing. I think it's important to play it based on what those defaults are, which who knows, maybe it'll drive me crazy.
You can have a perk that boosts your air assassination. So if this guy is too strong, you need to look around. Okay, maybe I will use this rooftop to assassinate the guy. You have other that if you are at night, you are stronger in your assassination. So when the night comes, it's best to use that way and do those things. So it makes you kind of change the way you play and look a bit more at the environment to play with the assassination.
Flip. No flip. Oh.
Now, based on the caliber of your previous open world RPG Assassin's Creed games, it seems like there's going to be a lot to do in Assassin's Creed Shadows. So let's talk a little bit about Endgame. Again, no spoilers here, but what awaits players who've maxed out all of their mastery and knowledge trees? What is there to do with an Endgame build?
We have all those trees that takes a while to fill up, but after you maxed out the rank to be able to access all the tree, we unlock a specific menu that we call the knowledge tree. So this one offer a lot of variety in terms of stats that you can boost. So with your point that you will still get from high level castle where you need to assassinate those samurai daisho that you need to be high level to go there. Once you got the mastery point, you can spend them in the knowledge rank to boost things like with my posture now are more deadly, or depending on the way you play, you can min and max and min the numbers to really make sure that you are strong in the way you want to play.
And I will give them this. When we saw the game, we saw, a pretty limited look for when we had our hands on the controller. But we actually got to watch this guy and one of his other co-gameplay directors. I feel so bad. Charles Benoit. We got to watch Charles, and we got to watch another guy named Simon play through a level as Yasuke, and they were showcasing late game customization with like building out your character in a very specific way. And they had built out Yasuke in a way where, like, for example, he was able to parry normally unparryable attacks, where he was able to stack certain types of damage and do these things that were much more elaborate and complex than anything we had seen elsewhere in the marketing cycle for the game. And so when he's speaking of like the ability to really min-max your character and build this out and to customize it, he's not lying. Like, there is a lot of that in the game. It's like, is that at hour 80 after the credits roll and you grind out a ton? I'm not sure. Does that start to show up 5 hours in? I don't know. But there is a lot of, based on what we saw, long-term customization and building of your character that is in the game. So this is certainly, it jives with what I've seen.
Yeah, it seems like you're really incentivizing people to just reinforce their play style, which is really fun. But now let's talk a little bit about loot. One of my personal favorite parts of all of the open world RPG Assassin's Creed games is just the staggering amount of gear you throw at all the players. And not only that, their cosmetic reflection on the player character. It's a beautiful attention to detail that I love to just try on new armors, try on new weapons, just to see if, one, they get me the power scaling I need, and two, gotta look good. So question about the actual rarities. You've got your common, you've got your uncommon, your rare loot, but let's talk a little bit about epic and legendaries. How do they differ from one another?
Yeah, legendary are really special. They are more handcrafted. They are specific to like high level targets or the castle. So we have like 30 castle, and each of them have a specific gear piece with those special perks that are modifying the gameplay in a different way. So it again changed the way you want to fight, or the way you want to assassinate because of those perks. I will give you an example of a cool combat perk that I really like. So when you have this legendary Naginata, you can now parry unstoppable attacks. So
remember what I just told you about? Like 90 seconds ago? He had a thing that made it so you could parry unparryable attacks. It's literally this exact thing he's talking about.
Each time you have a big brute with those red attack, now you can deal with it with this Naginata. But of course, you need to upgrade it and to keep it up to your level if you want to play with that on the long run.
Luke, ban me so I can return to doing my Calc 1 homework. No, in fact, I'm going to make you a mod right now. No, I'm kidding. How dare you? How dare you? Unbelievable.
Love it. You're saying all the right things. Is there transmog in the game?
Yes. So as soon as you have the forge unlock, we have the transmog that is now available for free for sure. So each time you got a new weapon, it also unlocked the transmog. One of the cool thing we did to represent the craftsmanship of Japanese culture, it's to push it a bit further. So if you get a couple of katana, you will have access to like deep transmog, if I would say. So you can mix and match the different part of your katana. So if you like the blade of this one with the hilt or the guard of this one, you can really mix and match all those things together.
Love that. Love transmog and tons of customization.
Now, that's obviously cosmetic, and thankfully you don't have to sacrifice substance over style in this particular instance, but are there actually like statistical benefits to mixing and matching the katana blades with the blade guards?
No, we kept the really because it starts to be complex if you have that attached to different part. So it's purely cosmetic. However, there is always a good advantage to look at the stat and mix and match like this.
Yeah, this is a good example of the different types of gear, because you see all of these on the left are level 20 gear, but as he swaps, so that one was epic, and you see how it's, you know, health 646, crit damage goes up by 18%, vulnerable damage goes up by 13, and then if we go down to the rare level, it's only 622, so it's a good bit worse. It's a couple decimal points off. It's like 0.2 off there. Vulnerable damage is down a little bit lower. So it will matter what rarity you're dealing with pretty significantly.
This helmet with this outfit and this katana, there is synergy that you can create where if I take back my example of the perfect parry that can now block unstoppable, we can combine it to a perk that inflict damage on parry, and another one that if you parry successfully, you have a free posture without charging afterwards. So you can create those kind of loop where it changes the way you want to play.
That's awesome. Do other weapons feature this mix and matching, or is this strictly limited to the katana?
Oh, good question.
No, each weapon have a really different thing, and we even dig a bit more with the specialty of each weapon. For example, the
game honestly looks good graphically. This is the thing that you can tell a lot from who you're listening to and talking to if they refuse to acknowledge like readily apparent things. So like if a game looks really graphically impressive, but the person you're talking to just refuses to acknowledge that, then you know that, okay, they're not actually concerned with like having a real conversation. They just want to like root for their team. It's like what game was that? This. So when Rise of the Ronin launched, it looked and ran like absolute donkey ass garbage. It just did. Even if you love Rise of the Ronin now that it's been ported to PC or is about to, I don't know. But now that it's had time to get updates and stuff, that's cool. I'm glad, happy for you. But the game looked and ran like a badly ported PS3 game. It just did at launch. But there were a lot of people that we would even interact with on Steam or on stream that were convinced that the game was already like it was actually great and we were just hating and everything. And it's like, if you can't even acknowledge that the game looks bad, then we can't even like really have a conversation, because like the horse is running like it has a bowling ball up its butt. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like the game just looks bad. It just does. And when you're dealing with somebody that refuses to acknowledge what's readily apparent, then you know maybe this isn't a conversation worth even having, because they're not coming at it with like good faith, quote unquote. And with like AC Shadows, I think this is a case of a game that graphically, what we saw at the preview, and when the footage is not compressed like crazy, like a submersible at the bottom of the ocean, IGN, fix your crap. When it's actually raw footage, it looks very, very good. Now, does a graphically good game therefore mean it's going to be a good game worth $70? No, there's plenty of graphically very impressive games that are not worth buying, that are garbage. Like it happens all the time. Even like at PS5's launch, you remember Godfall, the game that looked phenomenal, but then it ended up being like really, really lame. Graphics aren't everything. So it doesn't mean by like saying, even if you are convinced that Shadows is going to be terrible and it's awful and, cancel Ubisoft, whatever, you can still acknowledge that, yeah, the level of detail they're achieving in environments is really impressive. The fact that you can like cut and slice objects dynamically, that's really cool. You can admit that stuff. It still doesn't mean the game is going to be phenomenal, but like you can at least acknowledge what's readily apparent, and like even games that I don't like, you have to acknowledge certain things. Like Starfield was significantly more polished than any other Bethesda game I think they've ever launched. Like it was actually a very polished game. It's not saying a lot. It still had some bugs, but it was far and away the most impressively polished game that they had ever put out. To pretend like it was actually like the opposite is just silly. You have to acknowledge like the facts of the matter before you can even start to have the conversation, Real life has the best graphics, IMO, not worth $70. I think I'm going to return it. The first Strand type game had incredible graphics, but I'm not a fan of it. Oh, do you mean Death Stranding? You didn't like the... Yeah. I mean, Death Stranding, yeah, that's an example of a game that graphically is really impressive. A lot of people would point to like Horizon, visually stunning, drop dead impressive, gorgeous games. But a lot of people find them to be mediocre. And that's just, it's important though to be able to acknowledge that. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's like a diehard Xbox fanboy and they are like, well, no, actually Horizon looks like garbage. Like, okay, I don't think we're having like a serious conversation, because if you say Horizon looks like crap, I don't think we're even in the same reality. Okay. Cause I think Horizon is fine. I think it's good. I just don't think it's like a masterpiece that Herman Hulst makes it out to be. But it's graphically very impressive. And I think it's fine to acknowledge that. But like sometimes you run into these people that are like, I can't give them any credit for anything. And it's like, we're getting into a weird tribalistic, like my team versus your team political type of mentality. And I can't stand it, Yeah. Oh, Anthem, Trending Ribbon. You're totally right. Trending Ribbon. Anthem's a phenomenal example of a game that looked amazing, but was real hollow when it came down to it. Anyway, continuing on. This is why I think it's important to acknowledge AC Shadows does look very graphically impressive. But if you come across somebody that's like, wow, graphically it looks like terrible. So long as they're looking at actually like high quality footage, I think that could betray maybe a little bit of unreasonable bias.
The Kanabo is is a really, really strong weapon, but it's kind of slow. But with the different perk and abilities you can unlock, you can bypass some of the frame to charge up. You can also have a perk that you won't be interrupted if you strike some combos. So if you try to think this way and mix and match, you can just go on the strength of the weapon or palliate to the weakness of the different weapon.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the 5. The lack of one-shot kills speaks to the fundamental misunderstanding of these AC games. Just right away where the boss can't be killed in or can't be in a one-shot situation or can't be killed in a one-shot way. Yeah, I do think to a certain extent they've tried to do that. So for example, like high-level samurai, what they say is that the reason that even like if, and this might have changed or I might be misremembering, but I believe what it was is even a samurai that is on your same level, if you would try when they're fully armored up to assassinate them a typical way, like by dropping straight down on top of them, they literally have a helmet that protects their neck. So instead of you just being able to come in and shove the blade like under the helmet there, it like deals damage or maybe knocks the helmet off, but then they're able to be damaged. Or other games have done it where it's like the enemy wears a helmet. You have to shoot the helmet off. I think wasn't Indiana Jones like this? We had to shoot off the helmet and then they were vulnerable to headshots. stuff like that, where you can pretty easily just get rid of the problem of like people spamming or breaking it by putting armor in place, or yeah, it's a high level boss, and have it so you open the door, the cutscene plays, and then it leads into a combat encounter. Do it that way. Like, do it that way. That's way better. So I agree that the best way to deal with this is by just tying it into the game and like acknowledging narratively and in terms of gameplay the reason why you can't just one-shot them. And I think in Shadows they're trying to do that with like armor and things like that.
Your team's trying to eat up all my free time, but this sounds amazing. So talk to me a little bit about gear perks. How do those work?
With the rarity of the gear, you can have no perk at the beginning, so you start slowly with just learning about the stats and how they work. And after that, once you have the I think it's the rare one, you have a perk by default, but it's a perk that will boost different type of stats. And at the specific rarity, you have another slot that will open. This slot is a free slot, so you can engrave any second perk you want. That
was a crazy move, dude. Did you see that? Golly. But this is one of those shots that looks so much better if it's not compressed like crazy, because each one of the flowers has, you know, different strands and it has its individual petals. But this IGN, #IGN compression is unbelievable. Look how muddy everything looks. The game doesn't look like this. The game is way sharper, but it's because IGN compressed the ever-living crap out of it that it looks like that.
You have another.
Like, seriously, I'm just getting triggered, dude.
Open. This slot is a free slot, so you can engrave.
I'm sorry, it's like they don't know how to encode video. IGN, you have 18 million subscribers going on 19, and you still haven't figured out how to. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting worked up.
Any second perk you want.
They do this for a living.
This thing is available, of course, if you upgrade your forge in the hideout. But that's the advantage of getting multiple type of weapon, because you collect those type of perks that you can then engrave, and now you can go a bit deeper with the mix and match the different thing you want.
That's awesome. One thing I noticed at the end of the PC features trailer that your team just released is the very end of it, in the kind of holding card that your team developed. It said that the Claws of Awaji expansion, not DLC, expansion specifically called out, is 10 plus hours long. Is there anything you can kind of tease about that?
Well, I can tell you a bit what was already said, but yes, it's the island of Awaji. So yes, there is quest. You will continue your story. You will continue in building your character, and we announced that we have the bow that you will be able to use. So that's pretty fun, because it's adding a whole new things for your progression and abilities and stuff like that. So a lot more to progress and refresh your experience.
But before we go, Charles, is there anything you wanted to kind of leave the audience with ahead of Assassin's Creed Shadows?
I can't wait to see players like creativity with Shadows, and seeing how they use Nawe, how they use Yasuke, how they use everything we did. And there is so much combination that we didn't even think about, so we're always surprised. I remember on Odyssey seeing like some crazy mix and match, and I was like, oh, okay, someone think about that. So yeah, I can't wait to see how player will surprise me on Shadows.
Charles, thank you so much for joining me. Assassin's Creed Shadow is available March 20th on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5.
Indeed. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the weapon you get as part of this is only for Yasuke. It's a new weapon type for Nawe specifically. And I think probably the second expansion, it's a new weapon for Yasuke, and they just do it that way.